Hi guys, welcome to the class. In this lecture, we are going to discuss about flexible pavements and the theory and design of these flexible pavements. So, what is meant by pavement? A pavement is a structure consisting of superimposed layers of processed materials above the natural soil subgrade, above the natural soil on subgrade, whose primary function is to distribute the applied vehicle load to the subgrade. Here, the pavement is nothing but uh, a structure which consisting of the superimposed layers of processed materials above the natural soil, which is a subgrade soil. On that above, when we apply any vehicle loads or any loads that are applied on this structure, can be transferred, can be distributed to the load has to be distributed to the subgrade beneath it. So there are two types of pavements, which are flexible pavements and rigid pavements. In the flexible pavements, if uh, the load of any vehicle, the wheel load has been applied on these pavements, the whole have low or negligible flexural strength and rather flexible in their structural action under the load. Here, in this image, in this picture, you can observe the wheel load applied on this pavement. These are the granular structures, and the load transferred as the load has been transferred to the downward to the granular structure. The stress produced in these subgrade soil can be decreased by a great extent. So the load which is transferred to the lower layer by the grain to grain distribution, here these grain to grain distribution of the load of wheel load which is to be traveled downward to the subgrade soil can be decreased. So as the wheel load acting on the pavement will be distributed to a wider area and the stress decreases within the depth. So the flexible pavement layers reflect the deformation of the lower layers onto the surface layers. Here, if a wheel load has been applied on these pavements, the load distributed pattern here. In the surface area, the load distribution is high when compared to that of base course, and uh, again going through the base course having high wheel load applied when compared to that of subbase. So a wider area of the wheel load can be distributed downward within the layers beneath it, base course, subbase, and the selected layers under the subgrade. As the load is transferred, as the load is distributed to the subgrade, the load which is traveling, the wheel load which is distributed from the surface layer can be decreased to a greater extent, and the stress decreases with the depth, so that the load transfer can be reduced by using of these pavements. The typical layers of a conventional flexible pavement includes seal coat, surface course, tack coat, binder course, primary coat and base course, sub-base course, compacted subgrade, and a natural subgrade. Here, if the soil, we are laying a pavement, if the soil is not appropriate, is not suitable for the loads to be withstand. Load cannot be withstood by the soil. We can dig the layer of the soil, and the natural subgrade has been kept, and we compact the subgrade of 1 to 150 to 300 depth and a base sub-base course of. These are all aggregates. Aggregate sizes can be reduced, and a base course of soil and a binder course has been like aggregates, and tar has been produced, laid or surface course. A brick layer can be arranged here, and a brick layer of you can the camber has been provided here in the pavement itself. So while we lay roadways, the camber should be plays a major role. If the rise of the center part of this road can be increased by an amount of 5 to 8 centimeters, the water logging in the middle of the road can be eradicated. If any heavy rain seasons, in the heavy rain seasons, these camber protects the mid region of these roadways. So the passage of the smooth passage of the rainwater and are collected by the drain lines. Same in this manner, we lay the pavement. We lay the pavement. Here, the natural subgrade cannot be disturbed. So the natural subgrade soil, which is capable of withstanding these wheel loads, or the impact loads produced by the vehicles, so that these natural subgrades cannot be disturbed, and a layer of compacted subgrade of 150 to 300 mm can be laid upon this natural subgrade, and a sub-base course of 100 to 300 mm and a base course of 100 to 300 mm can be laid one on upon, and also a binder course of 50 to 100 mm can be laid. There is a prime coat, tack coat, which is a seal coat, which cannot percolate water into these layers, so that these water which are spread on these pavements can be smoothly collected into the drainage sewer lines, drainage lines or sewer lines, which are along with these pavements. So what is a seal coat? Seal coat is nothing but a thin layer surface treatment used to waterproof the surface and to provide skid resistance. Here, the seal coat we provided in this upmost layer of surface course. These seal coat cannot percolate the amount of water, or which can resist the water present on this seal coat, and also uh, to provide safe skid resistance to this upper surface, so that the seal coat is plays a key role in the laying of a pavement. And the tack coat is very light application of asphalt emulsion diluted with water, and it provides bonding between the two layers of binder spores. The prime coat is an application of low viscous cutback bitumen to an absorbent surface like granular bases on which binder layer is placed, and provides bonding between these two layers. The prime coat is nothing but the low viscous cutback bitumen uh, tar to nothing but a tar to an absorbent surface like granular bases on which these binder layers is placed, and provides bonding between the two layers. Here you can observe between the binder cores and also base cores. The bonding between the base cores and then binder cores can be used by using of these prime coats. Surface cores. Surface cores is the layer directly in contact with the traffic loads and are constructed with dense graded asphalt concrete, and a binder course is the purpose which is used to distribute load to the base course. The binder course requires a lesser quality of mix as compared to that course above it. So the base course does not require the binder course does not require any high quality of mix when compared to that of base course we are laying above this binder course. So the base course provides additional load distribution and contributes to the subsurface drainage. The sub-base course. Sub-base course is the primary functions which are to be provided structural support and improve drainage facilities, and also to reduce the intrusion of fines from the subgrade into the pavement structures. These sub-base cores are the preliminary functions to improve the drainage facilities of the pavements, and also the structural support can be provided to that pavement, and also reduce the intrusion of fineness of the particles penetrate through these subcourses. So from the subcourse in the pavement structures, these subgrade is nothing but the topsoil or the subgrade soil is a layer of natural soil prepared to receive. If the soil structure at the inside of these where we are laying the pavement courses, at the inside soil can resist the wheel load or the vehicle load, which can withstand the purpose of the uh, pavement laid by the soil. The soil bearing capacity can be tested. Here, if the soil cannot withstand any type of loads, then the soil has been replaced with the soil from the outside, where we can find the soil bearing capacity high to control the vehicle load, so that the subgrade is nothing but the topsoil we provided is a layer of natural soil prepared to receive the stresses from the layers above. Stresses from the layers above. The factors, major factors affecting the pavement design. The major factors which are affecting these pavement designs are of maximum wheel load. As per the rules, we have some uh, codes for using of these construction of these pavements. We are using some code books. According to those codes, the maximum wheel load has to be known before laying of the pavement. The axial configuration and the contact pressure and the repetition of these continuous loads on these pavements can be estimated before laying of these pavements, and also the climatic factor which plays a major role in the pavements, and also pavement component material, the materials which we are using for the pavements. So the design wheel load. How do we design the wheel load which impacts the pavements? So the maximum wheel load which is used to determine the depth of the pavement requires to ensure that the subgrade soil does not fail. Previously, we have discussed about the subgrade soil, which we have to test the soil bearing capacity, which can withstand these maximum wheel loads. If these SBC, the soil bearing capacity, is not capable of withstanding these maximum wheel loads, of which we are estimated preliminarily for the laying of these pavements. So the subgrade can be removed, and a soil bearing capacity of high grade can be taken close to the top uh, construction area, and the subgrade soil which we provide can be changed, which we provided can be changed to the soil another. So the contact pressure, it determines the contact area and the contact pressure between the wheel and the pavement surface. For simplicity, the elliptical contact area is considered to be circular. So the contact pressure of the wheel can be estimated for the easy application of this. The elliptical contact area is considered to be a circular contact area. So the contact pressure can be estimated of a wheel of the vehicle, so that the maximum wheel load can be attained. So the pavements which we have to lay uh, to withstand these loads, the pavements has to be laid very tough based on this maximum wheel loads. The axial configuration. The axial configuration is important to know the way in which the total load, the load is applied on the pavement surface. If there is a single axis with a single wheel, and also single axis with a dual wheel, and for tandem axle and uh, double wheels, and also tridem axles of six set of wheels we can see here. So for equivalent single wheel load, ESW is nothing but equivalent single wheel load in a single axle and a single wheel. Here in this image, you can see for a single wheel load, the contact area and the maximum load, stress loads can be calculated. There is a repetition of equivalent single wheel loads can be, so each load application causes some deformation, and the total deformation is the summation of all these, so that each vehicle produce some deformation to that pavement. So number of vehicles which are traveling on that pavement summons to the total deformation arised in that pavement. Although the pavement deformation due to single axle load is very small, the cumulative effect of these number of loads repetition is significant. So for single axle and a single wheel, the load is very small, which is negligible. And for the continuous effort of these single axle, single wheel vehicles, load vehicles, uh, the repetition of these single load vehicles is much significant in the calculation of this laying of pavement roads. Therefore, the modern design is based on the total number of standard axial load, which is of 80 kilonewtons in a single axial. Based on the calculations, we must prepare the pavement depth and the materials provided in the pavement, which can withstand these amount of pressures produced by the vehicle load. The climatic factors. when the climatic factors, in those climatic factors, the temperature and also variation in the moisture conditions can be seen. If the temperature, the white temperature variations may cause damaging effects. The pavement becomes soft in hot weather and brittle in very cold weathers. So depends on the temperature conditions, we must lay the pavements. Where the high temperatures can be recorded, so the pavements must withstand these high amount of temperatures. Where there are very cold weathers, these pavements becomes very soft in hot weathers and very cold when they are brittle. So these conditions can be seen, and the geographical information can be taken for laying of these pavements based on the temperature conditions we have, so that the pavements can withstand much longer duration and have a life expectancy of high, so that these pavements can be of any hot, can resist these hot weathers and are also cold weathers. The variation in these moisture conditions depends on type of the pavement and also type of the soil and also groundwater variation. So there are so many factors which depends on the laying of these pavements. The variation of moisture conditions, like the type of pavement we are laying, and also the type of subgrade soil we provide, and the groundwater variations can be taken in calculations while laying of these pavement areas. So it can be controlled by providing suitable surface and subsurface drainage. The drainage facilities which provide by laying of these pavements uh, plays a major role in the life expectancy of these pavements. The different characteristics of pavement materials depends on the California bearing ratio. It determines the strength of the soil subgrade and also subbase or base, and it is used for the design of the pavement. So we have different readings can be taken while laying of these pavements. The elastic modulus, which measures the material's resistance to being deformed elastically upon the application of wheel load. So if the wheel load applied on these granular particles which have uh, the resistance to be get deformed to an elastic, and when the load has been suspended from these granular particles, they can reattain their original position. So the elastic modulus of these materials can be estimated, uh, and also the Poisson's ratio, which is the ratio of lateral strain to the axial strain caused by the load parallel axis along axial strain. The resilient modulus. The elastic modulus based on the recoverable strain under repeated loads is called the resilient modulus. Here, the constant wheel loads which are applying on these granular particles, when the wheel load has been suspended from these granular, they restore their original structure. Thus, the recoverable strain under the repeated loads. So, the single wheel, single axial vehicles which are traveling on these granular particles repeatedly. So, the repeatable recoverable strain under these repeated loads can be calculated, which is nothing but the resilient modulus. The following material properties which are to be considered for both flexible and rigid pavements. When the pavements are considered as linear elastic, the elastic moduli and Poisson ratio are specified to certain conditions. So if the elastic modulus of the materials varies with the time of loading, then the resilient modulus is selected. Previously, I have said that the resilient modulus, when the restored strain of these granular particles when the load is suspended upon them. So, based on the elastic modulus of a material varies with the time of the loading. When the time of the load, the granular particles expand, or the elasticity produced in these granular particles to some extent when they are suspended. When they are suspended from the load, these granular particles restore to their original structure, thus nothing but the resilient modulus. So based upon the resilient modulus, the pavements can be selected, and also the pavements are considered as linear elastic. These elastic moduli and Poisson's ratio are specified laying up of pavements. the design procedure for flexible pavements. The design procedure for flexible pavements. There are three different types of designs we can see here based on the empirical design, based on the mechanistic empirical design, and also mechanistic design. Based on the IRC, Indian Road Congress 3721-2012 code book is based on mechanistic empirical design. It can be used for both existing pavement rehabilitation and new pavement construction. Based on this mechanistic empirical design, we can lay the pavements and also we can rehabilitate. Is there any repairs or rehabilitations can be done by using this mechanistic empirical design? It can also accommodate changing load types. It also uses material proportion that relates better with actual payment performance. So it can accommodate to the changing load types. So single wheel, single axial wheel load, and also tridem axial of 6 sets of wheels can also be accommodated with the changing of loads. These mechanistic empirical design can withstand the pavement which we laid. So it uses material proportions that relates better with actual pavement performance. The material proportions which we provided by laying of this sub-base grade soil, sub-base grade can also uses this actual payment performance. It provides more reliable performance. Predictions can be done for reliability of this performance based on the mechanistic empirical design. The failures of flexible payments. Previously, we have seen the advantages of these flexible payments, and now the failures of these flexible payments are alligator cracking or map cracking. When the load we have calculated to the maximum wheel load we have calculated, if the maximum wheel load has been delayed, has been approached to another level, these map cracking or fatigue can be seen in these flexible pavements. The consolidation of pavement layers, the rutting. If if the sewer lines which we provided both on the pavements, both sides of these pavements, if there are any soil degradation between these pavements, the rutting of this pavement can be seen. So shear failure crackings can be seen, the longitudinal crackings, the frost heaving, and also the lack of binding to the lower cores. The binding, the prime coat which we used to bind the two layers of in these pavements can also the binding which we provided is which is having low volume of attaching those two layers. These lack of binding to the lower courses which results in the failure of these flexible pavements, and also the reflection cracking, the formation of waves and the corrugations. Here, in if the both sewer lines, the one side of the we have to provide the embankment for the sewer lines which we provided both sides of the pavements. If the embankments cannot be provided properly, the soil erosion can be seen, and the formation of waves and correlations can be seen on the pavements. The bleeding and pumping of these pavements are the major failures of flexible pavements. Here you can see the alligator or map cracking. In this image, in this picture, you can observe this is the map cracking, this is the fatigue cracking, which relates the movement of pavement layer material and repeated application of heavy wheel loads. So the maximum wheel load which we calculated before laying of these pavements cannot withstand if any higher amount of wheel load passing on these pavements. These map crackings can be seen while continuous application of heavy wheel loads on these pavements. The swelling or shrinkage of subgrade soil or other layers due to moisture variations. Here you can see the rutting of pavement. The formation of ruts falls in this type of failure. A rut is a depression or a groove worn into a road by the travel of wheels. This type of failure is caused due to repeated application of load along the same wheel path, resulting the longitudinal ruts. Here, in the same path, the heavy wheel loads carrying the heavy loads, the heavy load vehicles carrying the heavy loads, passing same using the same path can using the same path can result in the rutting, the repeated application of load along the same wheel path, resulting longitudinal ruts. The wearing of the surface course along the wheel path, resulting shallow ruts. Here, the shear failure. Here, the shear failure causes upheaval of pavement or material by forming a fracture or a cracking can be seen in this image. You can see the shear failure cracking. The shear failure cracking. These are the primary causes of the shear failure cracking, which are excessive wheel loading and a low shearing resistance of the pavement mixture. The shearing resistance of the pavement mixture is low. These type of failures can be seen. If the pavement cannot withstand the heavy loads of the wheel, the shear failure cracking can be seen. The longitudinal cracking. Here in this image, you can see this is the longitudinal cracking. These crackings can be formed by the differential volume changes in the subgrade soil. The soil which we provided, the soil which we provided, the subgrade soil which we provided while laying of these pavements, is there any differential volumes? If the uh, compaction or uh, compact of the subgrade soil can't be done, and is there any volume changes in the subgrade soil result in the longitudinal cracking. The settlement of fill materials, the sliding of side slopes. Previously we have said that the drainage, the sewer lines which we provided on the both sides of the road, here if the rainwater percolation cannot be done, because there is a code provided here on this track, so that if the sewer lines which we do not provide any embankment, the soil erosion on the both sides can be seen, and the soil beneath these track can be eradicated of this water. Eventually these type of longitudinal crackings can be seen. Frost heaving. Here you can observe these are the frost heavings. Here in this image, you can see the frost heaving. Which causes frost heaving of localized portion of the pavement? The extent of frost heaving depends upon the groundwater table and the climatic conditions we have. If the groundwater table is reduced by the daily usage of the water, so that the soil may dump it into those empty paths, so that the uh, layers of the layers of the track can be compacted into the layers of the soil, so that the movement of these groundwater table, these frost heavings can be observed. These frost heavings can be observed. Here in this image, these are nothing but the lack of binding with the lower layer, or the potholes, or the slippages can be seen. Here is the major problem forming of these type of potholes in the track, in the pavements, are uh, the lack of the binding between these particles. So between the surface course and the underlying layer, the some portion of surface course loses up materials, creating patches and potholes. Here, the pavement, the topmost layer which we see here, cannot have the binding properties uh, beneath the surface, so that the binding between the surface course and the underlying layer which we provided on the subgrade, subbase, or the subgrade. So these layers cannot be attached so properly on this certain path, so that the patches can be formed and the surface course loses up. So materials creating these patches produce the potholes.
So the binding between the both layers cannot be done properly in this area, so that these potholes which we are facing is eroded due to the lack of bonding between those two layers. The slippage cracking is one form of the type of failure. The lack of primary coat or tack coat in between the two layers. Here, if we does not provide prime coat of the materials between the two layers, they do not have any binding properties between the top layer to the bottom layer, so that the coat between the two layers is the primary reason behind this type of failure. Here you can see these are the reflection crackings. Here and here you can see here these are the reflection cracking. This type of failure occurs when bitumen surface course is laid over the existing cement concrete pavement. These reflection crackings are formed due to the layer by layer. Here already there is a concrete pavement presented. In that concrete pavement we have laid in upon that concrete pavement we have laid another pavement, which results in the reflection cracking. So this crack is reflected in the same pattern on bitumen surfaces. Here, the cracks provided on the concrete pavement which we laid first, and same cracks can be seen on the top layer which we again provided on these pavements. So these reflection crackings are formed uh, according to that of cracks provided in the first layer of concrete pavement which we laid. Formation of waves and corrugation. Here, the transverse undulations appear at regular intervals due to the unstable surface course caused by stop and go traffic. Here, the surface course which we provided has been compacted so that regular intervals on the transverse undulations can appear at regular intervals due to unstable surface course. This cause stop and go traffic. The bleeding. Here you can see excess bituminous binder occur on the pavement surface. This is the excess bitumen, nothing but tar they provided on the road is excess, so that these excess bitumen binder uh, produce the shining of the in the hot summer in the hot sky, the IUV radiations. These roads can reflect these roads can uh, reflect the rays which are directly transmitted to those pavements. So the excess bitumen binders occurring on the pavement surface causes bleeding. These bleeding causes a shiny glass-like and reflective surface that may be tacky or to the touch, usually found in the wheel paths. So the excess bituminous binder which we provided to this pavement can affect in the glassy like shiny like paths, so the travelers can face a problem while moving on these hot summer conditions. These traveling on these roads is dangerous, so bleeding of these roads can be seen here. Next, pumping. Here, the seeping or ejection of water and fines from beneath the pavement through cracks is called pumping. You can observe in this image, the finest particles presented beneath this pavement can be pumped out by the damage happened here. So the cracks are provided on the pavement can pump the fine particles of the granular particles presented beneath this pavement can be pumped out. So here you can observe these are the pumping of the fineness of the particles from beneath the pavement through cracks, which is nothing but called as pumping. The failures of flexible pavements. The design of flexible pavements as per IRC is based on two major failures that are fatigue cracking and rutting failure, fatigue, cracking, and rutting failure. These are the IRC methods of design of flexible pavements, which are IRC 371970 based on the California bearing ratio of subgrade traffic in terms of commercial vehicles more than 3 tons laden weight, and based on the IRC 371984, the design charts for laying of these pavements were provided for traffic up to 30 MSA using an empirical approach. The number of equivalent standard axial load is of 80 kilonewtons in millions of standard axials, MSA. So based on the IRC 37-2001, these are the updated versions, and the wheel loads can be increased, and the pavement's depth and the pavement's designed as for traffic as high as 150 millions, 150 millions of standard axials, based on the IRC 372012, which are the guidelines for design by IRC 372012. The design traffic. The recommended method considers design traffic in terms of cumulative number of standard axials is of 80 kilonewton to be carried by the pavement during the design life. Only the number of commercial vehicles having gross vehicle weight of 30 kilonewtons or more and their axial loading is considered for the purpose of design of pavements. The assessment of present day average traffic should be based on 7-day 24-hour count made in accordance with IRC 9 1972, the traffic census on this non-urban roads. So the traffic growth rate, the design life, and the vehicle damage factor can be seen in the next class. Thank you.